Oh, I'm wonderful. And thanks for inviting me.
I'm glad you're here. Now, the number of missteps that Cracker Barrel made on this thing are amazing. What's even more amazing is I don't think it's the CEO really in and of herself. I think it's others that had to have signed off on this whole thing about Uncle Herschel going and sprucing up the inside. I would think there at some point was a team decision here, not just a decision made in a vacuum. Would you agree?
Well, I agree to some extent. As most of these decisions in corporations get to be groupthink, it's to follow the leader, and the leader has an idea, or their outside brand and company has an idea, and so there tends to be a lot of nodding yes. And unfortunately, they didn't think it through. For so many reasons. One of the things I was thinking about with this, I was curious. I was talking to one of my employees about it, emotional equity recently, and he's a big Starbucks fan.
Mm-hmm.
He says, yeah, Starbucks has that problem. I said, how so? He says, well, one minute they're a warm coffee shop, the next minute they don't want you parking there with your computer for too long, and they sort of switch back and forth. Well, I thought that was an interesting comparison to what we're talking about. So I looked her up. The CEO used to work at Starbucks.
Oh, my gosh.
The CEO of Cracker Barrel. I was like, oh, my Lord.
Oh. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I guess she's going to suffer the fall. She's gone into almost like hiding after this. She won't talk to anybody. But it was a $700 million transformation that took place. And that didn't even begin to address the amount of business they've lost. This is a $1 billion plus mistake that this restaurant has made. Now, look, I'm sure it was made because there's something that you have to do when you have any kind of business to just keep up with the times. But I think this is Bud Light. I think this is exactly what Bud Light did. It wanted something different, but they did it at the expense of their most loyal customers. And I think that's probably marketing mistake number one. Am I right?
Yeah, you are, because what I've been involved in for many, many years is doing double-blind market research for any client we have. Every company has to know what the top 3 to 5 values are of the customer. And I can't help but wonder if Cracker Barrel did sufficient quantitative research. I mean, if they held a focus group and a few people said, yeah, that's a good idea, that's not sufficient. You need data that's projectable onto a good sample size of your population who goes there. It blows my mind how they could make such a mistake not knowing the customer. Look, she came from Taco Bell, fast food. They have 8,000. Starbucks has 17,000 locations. Cracker Barrel has like 650. It's an entirely different formula. You can't apply what the emotional experience is for somebody at a fast food place to Cracker Barrel, which was known for warm and fuzzy comfort.
Right.
I mean, it's a shame. They all kind of nodded yes to that big mistake.
So this CEO, her name is Julie Fells Messino. You mentioned she used to run Starbucks. She also ran Taco Bell. I guess when you get into that level of business, you just morph or move from one franchise to the other. But I found this interesting. She was warned, apparently, before all of this took place by one of the people that were on the board that this was not smart, that this was a quote-unquote obvious folly. And
yeah, I think it was the founder, the 93-year-old founder warned her.
Yeah, okay. So this is the guy that was probably Uncle Herschel. So my point being is that if that's indeed the case, what is she still doing on the job?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I wonder. I mean, you said she went into hiding. She's probably in the witness protection program for all the stockholders.
Yeah.
It's the stock is going to bounce back a little bit, but I don't see the loyal people coming back in the numbers that she's going to need to overcome this loss. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hate to see any institution like Cracker Barrel, which it really was an institution for its target market. And, the difference between, I was thinking about this applying the fast food approach, which was her background, to Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel, not only was it warm and fuzzy, they had that little peg game that they put on the table.
Yeah.
They were come, sit, stay, play our peg game, enjoy the surroundings.
Yeah.
It's not a drive-through, grab your taco and be on your way. It's the whole idea of homogenizing food is a bad idea. And that's what she was doing. She was homogenizing, trying to turn Cracker Barrel into a fast food place.
Yeah.
And, I really don't know the answer to what you just asked is, will she still be around? I don't know how.
But would you agree that Cracker Barrel it's an older comfort kind of place? It's a family kind of place. And every so often you do have to not reinvent yourself, but maybe just reinvigorate what you're doing. And maybe the goal was that, and it just went off the rails. It sounds like maybe there was nobody there that would keep her or her idea on the rails. The thing you mentioned just at the beginning, probably surrounded by a lot of people nodding their head. But change is not necessarily bad, is it?
No, there should be some change, but it should be based on what the customer values. Here's an interesting statistic. I've been doing double-blind market research for companies of all sizes for about 25 years. Double-blind means the respondent, the customer, doesn't know who's asking. It's just, hey, when you buy XYZ, what's most important to you? I'm oversimplifying, but when we would get the results, we'd test 20 buying attributes. We would go back to the company and say, okay, we know the top 3 things most valued that score the highest for when you sell what you sell. But before we tell you what the top 3 things are, we want you and your team to guess. What do you think came in 1, 2, and 3 most valued by your customers? And I am sad to report 95% of businesses do not know their customers' top 3 buying criteria.
Wow.
That's stunning. If they don't know, and that's why I can't understand if Cracker Barrel did that kind of research. I don't know what kind of research they did. They say they did research. They have done focus groups. Focus groups is not statistically valid projectable data. And maybe they did that but ignored it, because if you were to talk to people, what are the 3 or 4 things you most value, they would have gotten good answers about what was important to their people, and maybe stuck to their guns.
That's interesting. What that would tell me is that the people that make the decisions probably don't use their own product. I mean, if you're in a restaurant or service industry, you do research on your product every time that you go into a restaurant or go into an industry that serves other people.
Exactly. I mean, it was there for all to see.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get into positions and they feel they have to make their mark, which may have been her approach. I've got to do something different. I've got to justify the big salary they hired me for, and so the move was not a smart one. And, to me, it's one thing, the logo. Okay, so you backpedaled on the logo, but the environment, I don't know, maybe I don't know how many of the Cracker Barrels have already been reconfigured to look like anybody's diner. That's what the pictures of it look like to me. Yeah. I don't know how many of them have already been reconfigured, and if they're going to continue that, because that's part 2 of the whole emotional equity. Okay, so you change the logo back, but when I go sit there, I could be in anybody's diner. This does not feel like the place I come for warmth.
And you walk into a Cracker Barrel. We used to have a chain of restaurants up here. Unfortunately, because of bad investing, it went under, but they were known as Frisch's. They had big boy hamburgers. You walked in and you knew exactly what you're going to get. And people in this area of the country, having lived here for the majority of my adult life, they want to know, what am I going to get? I want that comfort of knowing when I walk into a Skyline Chili or a Frisch's, the late lamented, or Cracker Barrel, I know what I'm going to get. And I don't think you want surprises.
You make a good point. We live in a world of uncertainty, and there are some things we want to feel certain about. Cracker Barrel felt like going to grandma's. The environment, the food, everything about it was comforting to those, to that target market. But you're right. We want some stability in a world that's changing by the second. Yeah. But, that aside, I agree. Yeah, you probably do, change a couple menu items, which I think she did from the get-go, and that's fine. But
Yeah,
it was a big faux pas all the way around. There's just
she performed surgery on a patient that had a scratch, and I think that's what she did.
That's a good way.
Jaynie Smith, CEO of Smart Advantage, specializes in leveraging companies' unique advantages. All right. I think the worst thing you can do when you make a decision is within hours pivot and go back to what the decision was before you made that decision. It makes it look like you don't know what you're doing. And this is the road you've chosen, and I think you've got to walk down that road, or you're toast. Your management team is toast, you're toast, and everything else. I understand that the worst thing you can do is stick with a bad decision, but I think, pivoting that quickly makes it look like these people don't know what they're doing. What would you have advised them, knowing how the reaction was? Would you have advised them to make a quick pivot like that, or would you have said, give it time and let's see what happens?
That's a good question. I think that I might have said stick with the logo, but make sure the rest of the store remains the same. I think once that logo was out there, it was pretty hard to pivot. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I'm not I don't go to Cracker Barrel. I don't have any near me. Otherwise, I probably would.
Yeah.
But I don't know what their target audience feels about the logo versus the actual atmosphere in the restaurant. If I were doing double-blind market research and I asked a sample size of customers there, what do you value most? How it feels when you go in and sit down and eat, or what the logo looks like? I think most would value, as I'm just projecting and guessing, most would value the experience of sitting there and eating and having it feel like home.
I agree.
Versus what's hanging on the door outside.
I agree, 100%. All right, Jaynie, CEO, Smart Advantage. How does somebody find you? Because everybody wants a Smart Advantage. Where do you exist?
Smartadvantage.com is my website, and they can get all kinds of information there. And we really help people find their number one competitive advantage and not toss it away like Cracker Barrel just did.
Amen on that. Amen on that. Jaynie, thank you for your time. Stay well, okay?
Thank you, Ken. Have a good one. Nice talking with you.